Equity Bank for the longest for years.
Service.
For years.
A service.
Yeah,
all
true,
service.
True, agree. But for years, we felt like we were under, some kind of guise under the financial systems, for instance. People were really marginalized.
Yeah.
And it just took innovation. It took the willpower of a few individuals to actually break those barriers. And honestly, I do believe that it's possible for us to break a lot of the barriers that there are right now as far as the climate debates are concerned, and that we don't even need to look so far for resourcing. We have a lot of potential internally to do a lot. Look at the private sector, for instance. If the private sector, let's take the financial institutions as an example, if they were to take the lead in saying, what can we do? How can we proactively manage this situation? What steps can we take? Let's move away from CSR, because if we are talking about carbon markets being investments, then what stops the local banks from taking the lead in making those investments happen? I mean, what's the point of me borrowing in $1 if I could borrow in a Kenya shilling? Especially when the dollar is very, right now the exchange rates have hit the roof. Why should I take on some money from somewhere when I can actually take that money from the local institution? So my thinking right now is, can we challenge ourselves internally to start making the steps to at least be moving in the right direction, and then ultimately people will see what we are doing and they'll join us, because naturally when people see progress, they want to be part of that progress. And the reality also is, eventually carbon becomes a commodity. And why do I say that? If, for instance, I'm in the US and I'm manufacturing and I have my taxation on my emissions, and the government expects me to actually pay up, then I have to go to the market to look for how I'm going to offset. If I'm going to the market, let's use the example of Amazon, Jeff Bezos, and he has done a wonderful job of setting up a fund, the Bezos Earth Fund, that's supposed to support the climate debates. But ultimately, if Jeff Bezos has to pay for his emissions, he will have to go to market to find those units. Where is he going to get them from, if not Africa?
That encourages sort of innovations and productions of carbon-free technologies.
With the carbon sinks, with nature-based solution, nature does all the innovation and all the technology. All we need to do is land and labor, because God provides the sun and the rain. Very simplistic way of looking at it, but it's the reality. With nature-based solution, it's not the same as technologies on carbon capture that require a lot more, transfer of technology. It's climate smart agriculture, which our grandparents knew about, and there are things that we can go back to and adopt. A lot of the nature-based solutions around carbon sinks do not require any more innovation beyond, say, use of technology, say, turning on the knowledge, because right now the youth, I can imagine a youth now who's in their 20s to their mid-30s does not know how to do, say, organic farming or climate smart agriculture. They might require some training. And Maringa, you know what has happened, especially in this country. The youth have moved and all the old people are left in the villages, so there is actually no energy. There are no people to do the actual work on as far as nature-based solutions are concerned. And my assertion is, even with the county government and devolution and the new systems structurally, if we could have a bit of people going back, because already our land ownership structures are smallholder. I live in Nairobi, but everybody who lives in Nairobi has some ushago, and that ushago, there is nobody there who is actually actively doing anything on the land. So the land is lying idle, and that's an opportunity to use the natural resource to actually carry out some restoration of sorts. And actually now market is as a commodity. Let it be the tea, the coffee. Let carbon be the export commodity that we know of. And there are so many ingenious ways of thinking about the approaches to how do we come to market? What are we presenting to the world? What is the opportunity? As opposed to, sitting back and feeling really marginalized, which we are, a fact. Is it going to go away? No. Is there something we can do about it? Not much. Can we think of innovative ways to deal with the situation? Yes, absolutely. And that's what we should be doing and thinking about.
Okay. Come in, yes.
You see, the thing about...
and I could see you disagree.
The thing about carbon sinks
yes.
is that there are so many assumptions that are being made.
Okay.
So we are seated here and we think that Factory A is emitting so many greenhouse gases, carbon, so much carbon, and that Farmer A in some place in Uganda who has planted all these trees is that once this carbon has been released, then this sink will suck it up. But that's not how it works, because this carbon has to get into the environment again, destroy the ozone layer, whichever way it will, and then later be sucked up. Okay. And I think the other thing, and I agree that it's important for us to particularly protect the old growth forests. One of the things that has been happening in the Amazon is a full rejection of this idea of carbon sinks, because the same people who are telling them to plant trees for carbon, to create carbon sinks, are the same people who are destroying the Amazon. And it's the same thing happening even in, for instance, in my country. We have Buvuma we have a forest on Buvuma Island that was cut down and destroyed, and then they came up and planted palm trees, all with the idea of renewable energy. So what's this whole fuss about getting people to plant trees while the old growth forests are being destroyed? Who is fooling who? And I agree that yes, we need to plant. It's okay for us to plant trees, but I think it's important for us to also study the politics. And also, yes, we can protect our old growth forests, we can plant new trees, but that doesn't mean that the global north should not cut down on their emissions. Because now with this whole carbon credit conversation, ideally what we are saying is that continue emitting as long as you have bought carbon credits. Okay. It won't solve that problem.
Yeah. So perhaps as you come in, let's now look at, as you bring this conversation to a close, the future. Yeah. We've told Kenyans, we've told Africa, well, so we are at a mere 3%, despite having the lowest carbon emissions in the globe, globally. When all this is said and done, what then, ideally, if you were to follow the book, what would be the time frame, and I'll start with you, Esther, what would be the time frame of perhaps seeing that we're not going back to where we used to be, but at least we've improved? So then the conversation becomes, okay, we allocated X percentage to X funding, then we can double this percentage to reach a certain percentage. Yeah.
So first of all, George, you very well know the SDGs are bound by a time frame of 2030, and even our Kenya Vision 2030, and a lot of African countries are looking at that. Everybody wants to align themselves with the SDGs because it makes sense, and especially some of the SDGs like no poverty. And the reality is, also the science tells us that by 2030, unless we stay within a certain 1.5, less than 1.5, we stay below 1.5, we're not going to make it. And right now, it's not just about Africa. We're not going to make it. It's even you've seen the wildfires. Yes. You saw the fire in Hawaii, Maui, the little island that burned down everything. People are running to the rivers to try and cool down. That is a real crisis. And trust you me, Faith, the global north is feeling the heat as much as we are feeling the heat, because the amount of resources that are going towards just sorting out the climate crisis, whether be it wildfires or whether be it the snowstorms that are showing up during winter, it's becoming such a pain every so often that people just have to think about it and think about what can we do at our individual levels, but collectively as governments, as communities, as societies, because we cannot continue in the same business as usual. Business as usual is no longer business as usual with all the crises that we are facing. Right now, the meteorological department has talked about La Nina. We're expecting that. Some of the challenges, actually, if you ask me, for Africa, is that our planning is kind of haphazard. We get so much rainfall, like in Kitui. Yes. All of that El Nino rain is going to just go wash away and go to the Indian Ocean. If we had investments and infrastructure to capture some of that rainwater, it will help us to grow trees for another next 1, 2, 3 years. So 2030 is the horizon that a lot of people are looking at globally and in Africa. And I honestly think that we need to keep checking. We don't wait until 2030 and come check what did we do at 2030, because then it will be too late to check then. So every 2 years is a good way to keep reviewing where are we, what commitments were made, what action has taken place. Are we walking the talk?
Okay.
Where are we?
Faith, you know, as we, you know, count down to the close of this conversation, as Akina Mama of Africa, you know, what is the role of the women in Africa, in the continent? Are they participating in this? Are they, I mean, when you move around the continent, are they saying that X has been done, X has not been done, this needs to be advanced, we're still using firewood, there are no technologies, because you're saying, fine, stop using firewood, stop producing, you know, these carbon emissions, but there is no, quote-unquote, affordable alternative.
Yeah, thank you for that question. I don't usually want to go into the conversation around firewood, because I think it's a destructive conversation, because the emissions that come from use of firewood really, can they cause the global climate crisis that we are facing at this point? But obviously there is need for us to move towards clean energy. So one of the things that we are doing, and obviously Akina Mama, but also part of a group of other organizations, women's rights organization, under the banner of the Africa Women and Gender Constituency. One of the things that we are doing is that we are demanding for meaningful participation. And so as Akina Mama, because we are a feminist leadership development organization, one of the things that we are doing as part of our Africa Women Leadership Institute is to be able to equip African women to meaningfully engage. And meaningfully engage means being able to challenge the current narrative and to reimagine the kind of world that we would want, and also to be able to advance specific alternatives. I mean, we talked about, I mean, you talked about climate smart agriculture, and I thought, okay, the way the global north has viewed climate smart agriculture and how they are now promoting improved seed varieties and denigrating our indigenous seeds and our traditional ways of doing farming and farmers' rights, then, I mean, raises questions about whether we would actually want to go the climate smart agriculture way, or to actually get back to our original ways of, at the point when I could be able to share, farmers could be able to share seed, could be able to save seed, could be able to replant seed. Today, with the kind of capture of the seed system, there are companies that are now ensuring that farmers cannot be able to share seed, cannot be able to reshare seed. They have to buy seed every season. Is that the kind of life that we want to live? Obviously not. Yeah,
so, and to you, I mean, what will we see perhaps in your Boreka group helping, you know, the people in the grassroots in perhaps in a minute, and perhaps what you want to see moving forward?
So for us, we've taken the walk the talk approach. That's our catch line. Walk the talk English. If I say the Swahili one, Boresha Maisha na Boreka is Swahili. But really for us, the idea is let's come together, let's aggregate, let's do what we can, where we can, within our own, where we are. So we are working in Kitui, we are working in Machakos, we are working in the Rakani, we are working in about 20-25 counties in Kenya. Plans to expand to other countries in Africa. We are saying we don't plant trees, we grow trees. We take care of the trees. We look at it as a long-term engagement. And we are saying that it's our collective action that's going to make the difference. And we are saying that we don't need a lot of resources from all over the world. We just need especially in Kenya, again, for me, the call is the private sector, banking industry, telcos, manufacturing. Instead of doing some, you know, CSR, we went, planted a tree, watered it, disappeared, took nice photos for PR, and we don't know what happened to that tree. Get into strategic partnerships with groups like Boreka that then can actually give you a report every 2-3 years. How did the tree that you supported to grow? How is it doing? What's the progress? How is that community doing? How can you measure the social impact? And so on and so forth. So looking forward is to say, if you have the likes of you know, what has happened in the telcos or banking in Africa replicated in the climate space, then the sky is not going to be the limit.
Absolutely. And you know, you also want to see changes in the continent?
Yeah, I think for me, to say that the global north needs to play their role.
Perfect.
At the moment, with illicit financial flows, we are, as a continent, we are losing more than $80 billion every other year, and it's all going to the global north. So addressing that would then help to save a lot of the financing that we need to finance development, whether it's in terms of health or education or
Absolutely, indeed. Ladies, thank you so much for your insight on the program tonight, especially the backdrop of the Africa Climate Summit. My name is George Maringa. I've been speaking to Esther Mutuma, founder and CEO of Boreka Group here in Kenya, as well as Faith Lumonya from Uganda, Economic Justice and Climate Action Lead, Akina Mama, our Africa. Ladies, thank you so much for your insight, and we hope that we'll come back one day and say we achieved what we one day discussed here on the program. I wish you a wonderful night. As always, stay safe and be kind to one another. Up next is Wabebe XP rerun with the Wild Willis Raburu. I'll see you tomorrow on the People's Court. Good night from Nairobi.